coming at you this morning, balmy 61 degrees in Portland, doing book 3, my cap on this big, hard booking classic, Native Son. I'm very excited about this book. Easily the best book I've been turned on to in the past 5 years. And people are going, well, I read this 30 years ago, you know. Yeah, so much to say about this. I found out HBO did a movie last year on this book, and from the trailer, I'll link it below, they seem to have updated it, at least by, it looks like they turned it into the 50s or 60s or maybe even 70s. I don't know for sure, but it's not like the 40s like this is. But it seems to be a powerful film. I'm sure it will be. So let's try to concentrate on book 3 without too much digression from me in book 2 and 1. I mean, I'll refer to them a little bit. I'm going to link to Jack's book 2, Flight. This is in 3 books. Not a huge novel. It has some notes and an interview at the end, too. It's about 500 pages, so, you know. And this, I'm sorry, it didn't start out in such bad shape. I have more stains and coffee stains and beer stains and notes on this than I do on my copy of Pynchon's Bleeding Edge, and I just read last month with Todd and Lillian. So I'm going to move and stay tuned. Thanks. Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's get into this. Like I mentioned, I have more annotations in this book than I do Bleeding Edge by Pynchon. Just the writing, and I don't have anything really scripted. This is just off the cuff. I'm going to read some parts and just try to make it pretty brief, sum it up. At first, you know, book 3 was a denouement, anticlimax. I didn't like it as well as the first 2, but now I've reread it a couple times. It might be my favorite section because he ties everything up. And let's just hit this off the bat. So they've caught him now. So he's in jail. He's in a jail cell. He's got a Jewish lawyer named Max, and the prosecuting state's attorney, they're just hammering away at this. I mean, they caught him dead to rights. For murder, and they're claiming he raped both of the girls. He killed Mary, the white woman of the Daltons, who gave him the job, were helping him out, and the Daltons are all, you know, into helping the cause, as it were. But there's a curious thing. They're very rich in that. But Mr. Dalton, in the trial, he says, yeah, I just got done donating. They're not mad at Bigger. They forgive Bigger. And so does the Red, meaning the communists that Bigger tried to blame this on. Jan, he's a man, but Jan was Mary's boyfriend, and has forgiven Bigger. But Mr. Dalton, you know, so proud. I just got done giving away some ping pong tables to the black community, you know, Boys and Girls Club or whatnot. And that's the thing. I mean, that's all well and good, right? But ping pong tables, you know, we need something concrete. We need housing. We need jobs. We need. So right off the bat, we get Bigger's given up. He gives up on the death sentence that he knows he's going to get, but then he does want life. He wants to live. Now, he didn't rape technically either of these women. Bessie, the second woman that he kills, was his girlfriend. Bigger, the magic in Richard Wright's writing is he made me feel for the character Bigger, who is not a nice person at all. I could argue, I mean, in book 1, they're planning a robbery. Bigger is all, you know, ever notice I want to point out something that's right in front of you. If you're like me, you miss it. Bigger rhymes with N-word. So when they're prosecuting him, they use bigger, and this bigger, you know, and then they actually use an N-word, of course, too. But he's not a nice guy. He beats up on his friend, particularly one friend who they're plan this robbery, and he really is a controlling person. Type A to the max, bossing people around and things like that. So, and he murdered Bessie, the black girlfriend, with a brick to the back of the head, threw her down a elevator shaft, and she actually lived and froze to death later. So a lot of suffering. He causes a lot of suffering. His family causes a lot of suffering to his mother. He's got a younger brother, Buddy, who looks up to him. Younger sister, Vera, who's trying to make it too, trying to go to school or training to be a seamstress, and she gives up on that due to all this stress. And so I'm going to read some parts from his mother. What Wright does is a thing that, like, John Irving does as well. He does like magic with writing. He does things that are also comparable to books like Wuthering Heights, where it's realistic and it's believable, but it would never happen in reality. There's parts in book 3 where I think his mother is there, his lawyer Max is there, who's Jewish, by the way, and white. And then his friends come in, Gus and Guy, and so there's and then the sheriff are there, and there's, I don't know, like 10 people in his jail cell. That would never happen. Interviewed, and there's notes at the end. Just a great book. So at the beginning of book 3, Fate, he was not so much in a stupor as in the grip of a deep physiological resolution not to react to anything. After he was arrested, Bigger didn't eat, didn't drink anything. They're giving him cigarettes. He's not, just nothing. He's resigned. Having been thrown by an accidental murder into a position where he had sensed a possible order and meaning in his relations with the people about him, having accepted the moral guilt and responsibility for that murder because it had made him feel free for the first time in his life, having felt in his heart some obscure need to be at home with people, and having demanded ransom money to enable him to do it, having done all this and failed, he chose not to struggle anymore. Okay, so what I left out is after the murders, he plans writes a ransom note and says, puts red on the bottom of it, blaming it on Jan, the communist. Whoa. So then he tries to get Bessie lined up. And I'll link to my part on Book 2, Flight, where I read from Bessie just going off on how Bigger used her. Bigger never even loved her. He admits it. I'll read part of that, but I'm going to read part of this for the moment. Crimes such as the Bigger Thomas murders, this is one of I think the prosecuting attorney, state's attorney, crimes such as the Bigger Thomas murders could be lessened by segregating all Negroes in parks, playgrounds, cafes, theaters, and streetcars. Residential segregation is imperative. Such measures tend to keep them as much as possible out of the direct contact with white women and lessen their attacks against them. Now, all that's in here too, about how black men are driven to be attracted to white women. That's in here. It's in here that they do it to, everything is in this book. It is so great. I don't agree with that statement, of course. They're hardwired to. But it was a common belief back in the day. Here's the part where they're all lined up in his cell. This part just literally had me in tears where, okay, everyone leaves and it's just his ma. Forget me, ma. Son, there's a place where we can be together again in the great by and by. God's done fixed it so that we can do, She's telling you right, son, the preacher said. Forget me, ma. Don't you want to see your own ma again, son? Slowly, he stood up and lifted his hands and tried to touch his mother's face and tell her, yes, I'll pray, Ma. So they got the preacher in there who Bigger gets mad at. You know, this is his mom. Lord, here we is, maybe for the last time. And you gave me these children, Lord, and told me to raise them. If I failed, Lord, I did the best I could. Amen. These poor children's been with me a long time, and they's all I got. Lord, please let me see them again after the sorrow and suffering of this world. Here, Lord. Lord, please let me see him again. I could love him in peace. Let me see him again beyond the grave. Have mercy, Jesus. You said you'd heed prayer, Lord, and I'm asking you in the name of your Son. And just on, like, for a couple pages, like that, just begging, just really made me cry. Trying to pin other murders on him. I mentioned about in book 1 where they correlate. Bigger masturbated in a theater, regular theater, Pee Wee Herman, and with a friend, while the newsreel was going of Mary Dalton, you know, the white woman. So that's how they pin the rape charge on Bigger in here. Prosecuting attorney. Why did you leave an unprotected white girl alone in a car with a drunken Negro? Now he's going to Jan, the communist. I was not aware that Bigger was drunk, and that I did not consider marriage to be unprotected. There's a part in probably book 2 where Mary and Jan, Bigger gets a job with the Daltons. That's how this whole thing gets rolling, as a driver.
A chauffeur.
And Mary gets the bright idea to, she wants to get some soul food in Chicago, and she wants to get acclimated with, you know, the black community. She's all like in that the white rich Dalton family wants to help the cause. So she makes Bigger take him to the soul food joint, and they eat together at the same table. You know, this is unusual in the 40s. There's segregation still. And Bessie, Bigger's girlfriend, sees him there, and it gets this rolling. White people never searched for Negroes who killed other Negroes. He had even heard it said that white people felt it was good when one Negro killed another. It meant that they had one Negro less to contend with. Crime for a Negro was only when he harmed whites, took white lives, or injured white property. Now, how true is that, like, especially like in the 80s, remember the crack epidemic and black-on-black crime? Dave Chappelle has a funny, to me, very funny stand-up bit where he compares now the heroin and opiate crisis with the whites community. You know, Chappelle lives in Ohio, where I'm from. He goes like, yeah, I can understand it. I can feel it from my heart because, the crack community. And he says, okay. Yeah, and he goes, and I don't give a fuck either. Just say no, motherfuckers. It's not funny, but the correlation is, remember the 80s with crack? Now we got the opiates with the white community. And it's bad. They bring in, Wright has another character, very brief character. He's crazy, but he's educated, and he's from the university, and he's written a paper, and somehow he's gotten arrested for talking out about it, First Amendment rights, right? You're afraid of me, the man shouted. That's why you put me in here, but I'll tell the president anyhow. I'll tell him you make us live in such crowded conditions on the south side of Chicago that 1 out of every 10 of us is insane. I'll tell him that you dump all the stale foods in the black belt and sell them for more than you can get anywhere else. I'll tell them you tax us, but you won't build hospitals. I'll tell them the schools are so crowded that they breed perverts. I'll tell them you hire us last and fire us first. I'll tell the president of the League of Nations. The men in the other cells began to holler. Pipe down, you nut. Take him away. Throw him out. The hell with you. You don't scare me, the man yelled. I know you. They put you in here to watch me. Now, in the back, Wright never He mentions, I never let on if I mean the President of the United States, the President of the University, the President of... Here's Max, the Jewish lawyer. He's trying to save his life and not get the death sentence. And he keeps talking bigger into this. They're going to try to plead this. They're going to try to plead not guilty at first, but when it comes up, they're going to plead guilty and throw it on the mercy of the court, of the judge. Bigger, I know my face is white, Max said, and I know that almost every white face you've met in your life had it in for you, even when that white face didn't know it. Every white face considers it his duty to make a black man keep his distance. He doesn't know why most of the time, but he acts that way. It's the way things are, Bigger, but I want you to know that you can trust me. I ain't got no use, Mr. Max. You want me to handle your case? Okay, this is Max. You can't think of any reason you did it. Now, Bigger starts in, and I'm not going to read all this, but Bigger admits. And here, I'm going to go back to, and I'll leave a link below to my James Baldwin Notes of a Native Son, where there's a big section about, why Bigger did this. It was an accidental crime that he did put himself through, and he did cut her head off. Didn't have to do that, Bigger. Could have stopped, It's not funny. What I'm smiling about is the way he makes you, Wright makes you feel for Bigger and root for Bigger, or he did me. That's magical writing. Bigger did have aspirations growing up. He wanted to be an aviator. He wanted to join the Army. Well, I wanted to be in the Army once. Why didn't you join? Hell, it's a Jim Crow Army. All they want is black man for is to dig ditches. And in the Navy, all you do is wash dishes and scrub floors. I'd like to be in business, but what chances a black man got in business? We ain't got no money. We ain't got no mines, no railroads, no nothing. They don't want us to. They make us stay in one little spot. And why didn't you want to stay there? And then I killed him because I was scared and mad. But I've been scared and mad all my life. And after I killed that first woman, I wasn't scared no more for a little while. Now, these are all excuses. He could have joined the Army. Could have did things. But, I mean, it makes sense. It's like Glenn Beck. I don't even know if Glenn Beck, that guy was on TV, used to draw on the chalkboard. It's like, okay, you're homeless. So you buy a house. What motive actuated Bigger Thomas? There was no motive. His motive is understood by our laws today, Your Honor. And the crowds are gathering outside, and it's a literal lynch mob, and just a, what can I say? Just a most definite big hard book and classic right here. I really recommend everyone to read Native Son by Richard Wright. I certainly didn't do it justice in these 3 videos. So thank you for your time and patience. It's time to put my mask back on, and wish you a great day. Hope your weather is like ours. Perfect for me. And I shall talk to you later. Later.